Welcome to the 52 Love Podcast, your show for 52 lessons in 52 weeks. Before we dive in, remember you can find the audio version of this episode, along with the rest of the series, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. And now, here's your host, Ms. Tonya Todd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 52 Love Podcast. I'm your host, Tonya Todd. 52 Love began as a blog series last year, 52 Love Lessons in 52 Weeks. This year, we are exploring each of those tips with a new guest each week. This week's tip is to give thanks with your partner, and here to talk about it is my guest, Mel Walker. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Honored to be on the program. My name is Mel Walker. I am a romance author, one of the rare male romance authors, which I'm finding out. I write contemporary romance with a special interest in small town romance.
Why small town romance? What drew your
Uh,
interest there?
I love the sense of community and support that comes with that. So it's more about family and really nice people supporting one another through difficult times. And that's really been like a theme in my life and a theme that I really like to hit upon over and over again.
And what brought you to the world of romance? Were you a romance reader to start, or did you start writing in a different genre and then you moved over to romance? How did that all start?
Great question. So I've read just about everything. I actually tend to read more thriller, and I do read a lot of romance as well. But whenever I started writing, and it goes way back to like elementary school, it was always, a love story was a central part of the story. And
Hmm.
I've always tended toward, writing romance or love stories. It's just something that's always spoken to me.
So, how did you first get published in the romance world?
I did a self-publishing. My first book actually came out in 2017, and I now have 9 published books out and working on a lot more. So,
Wow, that's a lot of books.
yeah, so it keeps going and growing, and the community is amazing, very supportive, and I love what I'm doing.
So, tell me what went behind your decision to go with the self publishing route. Did you try another route first, or did you just always decide I wanted control of this?
I did look into the traditional publishing. I went to I'm based in New York, so I went to the Writers Digest conference, and they had pitch sessions, and they had all of the traditional pubs there. I met with a few of them. I did do some submissions, but the process and the timing just was very very slow, and
Hmm.
I just wanted more control over what I was writing and when I have to write it and what I wanted to write. So I explored indie, did a lot of research, and it really speaks to the method of how I write and what I want to write.
Now, you said you have 9 books already. Are you a quick writer?
I don't consider myself quick, especially after meeting so many people in the industry. There are people out here that are publishing, monthly and bi-monthly, which I find,
Wow.
yeah, incredible. I do, 2 to 3 books a year, which I think is a lot. And
I do
so,
too.
yeah, so that's really been my pace in terms of publishing. But there are people out there that, have backlists that will blow your mind away.
So, what is your writing process? How do you go from conception to publication?
So it's weird. It's always different. So it always starts with a germ of an idea or a theme that I want to get across, and then the characters step onto the stage,
Hmm.
and they really control the process. So I've tried to be a plotter. I consider myself a plantser, which is a combination of plotting and seat of the pants. Um, and I'll start out with an outline, but every single time I will not finish with the outline that I started with. The characters will always speak to me. They will always take control and say, "Oh, that's cute. You wanted to do that, but we're going to do it this way." And so that's really been my process. I just listen to the characters. Obviously behind the scenes, there's a lot of craft that you have to follow in terms of the story structure, motivation, goals, and reader expectations that you have to keep in mind. But I don't box myself in terms of, this was my outline and this is how the story has to unfold. I will give it room to breathe and grow.
What's your revision process like?
Oh, it's messy. So I'm one of those people that actually spend more time revising than writing. So I'll get through a first draft in relatively short order, but I'll do 6 to 8 different passes in terms of revisions. I'll go through with my eye on certain things each pass. So
Hmm.
I'll go through the characterization. I'll go through just the overall story structure, making sure it's hitting all of the proper beats. Then I'll make sure that it rings true, that there's no plot holes and consistency in there. And then, you put in terms of the glitz, in terms of making sure that you hit all of the emotional beats and that your word choices are spot on. And then you work through, the other craft elements in terms of editorial and line editing and all that. So it takes me several passes to get to a clean version.
It sounds like a lot of work, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun. I'm learning to love more of the editing. I was not, it's a grueling process going through, 7, 8 times in the same document. I really love the first draft. That's like for me the gold. Um,
Hmm.
but I'm starting to appreciate more and more in terms of the editorial.
Do you have first readers or critique members or writing groups or anything that look at your work before you publish it?
Yeah, I have a small set of beta users who are really invested. They give me great feedback. I typically will give them like an 8-page guide in terms of things to keep an eye on in terms of language consistency, things like that, characterization. Are these people relatable? Would you want to go out and have a beer with this person? Things like that.
Hmm.
And I get all that feedback and try to incorporate that through the revision process. But the beta readers are really spot on. I really applaud them for taking so much time because I do ask a lot of them, and they've been really good. I have one that's been with me from the beginning, and it's grown since then. And then I also do ARCs out. So I do have an ARC team, which is our advanced reader group who gets the advanced copies of the books, and they will also go through it and provide feedback to me as well.
So, how did you go about gathering those people? Because that sounds like years of work in the making to have a team like that.
It's a process, and it's something that you have to feed and water constantly. um, so some of them are people I met online. Others are people that were fans of my early work, and I
Hmm.
began a relationship with them and reached out to them and said, "Hey, you really gave a great review on this book. You seem to really love this character, and you're always commenting on my posts. Would you like to join my art team?" Things like that. And so it's been a
That's
slow work.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's been a slow organic growth. Always looking for new members because you always want to make sure that you're meeting those reader expectations, especially in the genre I write in. The expectations
Hmm.
are pretty important.
So, speaking of characters, what would you say is the most memorable character you've written? Because I know you and I have discussed how our characters speak to us. Who
Oh yeah.
speaks to you the most?
So the one that speaks to me the most is probably my favorite character that I've written is Mia Marshall. She's in my small town romance Lake Hope series. She's featured in book 2, Aaron's Heart. When I originally envisioned that character, she was a best friend from book 1, but her role just kept growing, and she kept speaking to me and saying, "No, I want my own book. I want my own book."
Hmm.
And she's a dynamo. She's like the girlfriend that is humorous, funny, smart. It has a business sense on her head, and doesn't take crap from anybody. And I was like, wow, she's
She
getting her
doesn't
own
want to
book.
be a side character in
Yeah,
somebody else's story. She
no,
wants to
not
be
at
the
all.
lead in her own
Yes,
story.
yeah, and she's like my favorite that I've written thus far.
So, what's the most recent book you've published? And then tell us, what are you working on now?
So my most recent book just came out August, end of August. Oh, it's called The Amazing Date. I actually have it right here.
Nice.
So it is a one of my favorite tropes is second chance. So it's a second chance romance. It's based on I actually have a prequel out. So it's based on, and I'll tell you the premise because it actually dovetails with the tip. So the idea for the amazing date came from during COVID, being at home with the family. We started looking in streaming shows on TV,
Mm-hmm.
and we love The Amazing Race. And so, Amazing Race is a reality show where they have teams partner up and they do these crazy challenges and run around the globe. So they'll race through 50 countries, or I'm making up the number, but several countries around the globe. They'll do 50,000 miles, and the first one that gets to the finish line wins. And so our family, we streamed, I don't know how many seasons of it throughout the COVID lockdown last year. And the whole time, my wife and I were talking, and I was like, what'd be cool if there was a partnership in terms of a romantic partner pairing as a team, but one that didn't know each other very well. So it wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
husband and wife, it wasn't a boyfriend or girlfriend, just thrown together and see how they would react. And so that was the germ of the idea for the story. And so in this story, the two characters have only known each other for 5 days. They met in Puerto Rico at the main character Roberto's grandmother's house, and then there's an incident between them where they actually split apart, and so it's a friends to lovers second chance. So it fast forward several years later, and the girlfriend Riley and her best friend, who happens to be Roberto's brother, are actually in the race together, but something happens to the sister. She gets injured the day before the race. So Roberto and Riley, who don't get along, are paired together, and they have to compete in this race competition that goes around the United States, and learn to get along and get along. And since it's a romance, they end up getting past their issues and falling in love. So that's not a spoiler. It's a romance. Has a
Right.
happily ending ever after. So
So, how did your love of running play a role in this?
well, yeah, it's a race. So, so yeah, as you know, and I'll let your viewers know. So I'm also I enjoy running. In fact, I ran this morning on the strip.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's I'm part of what I consider the greatest running group in the world, Woodside Sunnyside Runners. It's a community-based, and there's that theme again, community-based running group that works. They're very supportive of the area. We do a lot of charity runs. We support all of the issues in the community. So it's not a big competitive racing club where it's like, okay, we have to break this record, we want to break this. It's more about engagement, fellowship, community,
Hmm.
and supporting one another in our goals. And so I love the group and run with them all the time. And so that love of running and community played a big part in terms of the story as well. So as part of the race, there's lots of running challenges throughout. And in terms of, everyone comes at it with a different skill level and come at it from a
Hmm.
different place. And so the partnership of, working with somebody at different levels and supporting them and pulling them up and helping them get through challenges that they think they can't get through plays a part in the story.
Very nice. So, tell us what you're working on now.
So my next project, this one I'm super excited about too. Once again, it's a second chance romance. It's my favorite trope by
That's not your
far.
favorite trope, yeah.
By far, I love second chances. So it's called Kiss You Back, and so
It's a
it's
good
a
title.
thank you, thank you. It is based on a 10-year high school reunion, and so it's the opposites attract. So at the time in high school, it was the nerdy boy who's studious, etc., and the high school cheerleader who's queen of the school, top of the class. And he never made the move in high school. They were friends, but he never stepped up because he didn't want to risk losing the friendship.
Hmm.
And now it's 10 years later, and everybody's returning for the high school reunion, and shenanigans happen, and he gets an opportunity that he didn't have before. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And the best part of it is it's going to be part of a collection. So it's going to be released in a sweet romance collection called Finally Got It Right. So look for that. It's already out on pre-order. And the best thing about, not the best thing, but one of the beautiful things about it is it's only 99 cents. It's on all platforms, and it's 15 different authors. You get 15 great stories for 99 cents. You can't beat the price, and you're going to love Kiss You Back.
Well, make sure you send me the link so I can include it in the show notes.
I will definitely do that.
So you said that the last story that you're writing ties into today's theme. Why don't you share how you went about doing your specific intimacy task?
So, well, first of all, I love the task that you sent. You seem to have a habit of grabbing the right person for the right task.
I
So,
can't take credit for that all the time. Sometimes it's like, just God puts the right person in my path, or I think this person would be great. And I find out they were the best person ever for it,
so in terms of giving gratitude and thanks and blessings, I always tell everybody, I feel blessed every day. And so, backstory. So I grew up. Both my parents are from the South, so very strict upbringing, etc. It was 8 of us growing up, so 7 boys, 1 girl. And so
That is a lot of children.
yes, yes. And so, my mom and my dad, they managed the household, with a whole set of rules. And so growing up, it was like, these are your chores, these are your responsibilities, this is what I expect out of you, etc. And us as children were yes, 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 yes. And we just did it. And so we didn't expect things. We didn't get things. It wasn't something that, was in our household.
It was an
It
expectation.
was an expectation. It was like, why are you looking at me like that? I told you to do it. You did it. Okay, let's go. So it was different.
You want
growing up.
acknowledgement for what you're supposed to be doing?
Exactly. Exactly. So that was the mentality I came up with.
At the same time, yes, because not
Yes,
everyone does what they're
exactly.
supposed to do.
Exactly. So yeah, that's so true. So when my wife and I started dating, her perspective is different. She was an only child, and so she
Right off the bat, that's very different.
yes, and so her experience growing up was totally different. And so when we started going out, she thanked me for everything, the littlest things. And at the time, I was like, okay, yeah, okay. That's what a guy is supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, like you just said, it felt good. It felt
Mhm.
good to be acknowledged. And I was like, wow, this is nice. Um,
Especially after being starved of it.
yes, it was like watering a plant. It's like
Mhm.
I started like, wow, okay, I can do this. I can
And
say thank you
now I
too.
want to do it more.
Right. Yes. It was a perfect moment. And so in terms of the tip, so I set up, we called it a Saturday date. We actually stole that term from one of your shows. We
Did
called
you?
it,
Yeah,
yes,
it was the Wednesday, right?
yes. So we called it a Saturday date. And so we picked a local restaurant that we hadn't gone to. I know my wife was interested in trying out their food. And so I told her, we have a Saturday. I want to talk to you, which in retrospect, I shouldn't have said it that way because,
Yeah, it's like we need to talk.
right,
Why are you doing this?
right. Why are you picking a fancy restaurant and saying we have to talk?
Right.
So she's like, okay, I could usually roll with it, but with those words, I need to know a little bit more. So I had to give her some context. I was like, it's going to be a great conversation. I have a little tip we're going to discuss, et cetera, et cetera. So she was like, okay, DEFCON 3, DEFCON
Right.
4.
You wordsmith for a living and you start with
I
we
know.
need to talk.
I know. But like I said, she rolls with
You
everything.
need to revise.
Yes, yes, she rolls with everything. She's the greatest. And so we go to dinner and we sit there and we order the drinks and she's like, okay, what are we gonna talk about? It's like, well, let's order first. When are we getting
Oh,
to
you're
it?
teasing.
And so after we place that order, I give her the guidelines in terms of the tip and everything, and she immediately loves it. She's like, oh, this is great, this is great. And so we talk through it, and we start high in terms of we express gratitude and thanks for where we are in life. We start talking about where we are physically. We're both healthy, able to get around. All the blessings in our life. We talk about other family members. We talk about our situation that we moved in the middle of the pandemic, and that went a lot better than we thought it would. And we love where we are now. So we have so many blessings to be thankful for. And so just went through that whole catalog of things, which on a regular basis, my wife talks about. And this is the beauty of her, is that, it's not that we needed a Saturday date. And this is
Hmm.
why it spoke to me when I read it, is that on any given day, she'll say thanks to me, to the neighbor, to everyone around her, to the atmosphere, the stratosphere. Thank you, for everything. And she's just a beaming shine of light. So it's like she's just crazy. So, um, so we went through, all of that, and then we like, okay, let's talk about us. What are we
Hmm.
thankful for? And so I explained to her about, the things that I have for her in terms of like the littlest things that she does, and she does consistently. That's what blows my mind. It's like, we've been married for 6 years, it's going on 7 years, and every single time I take out the garbage, she will thank me. I was like, wow, that's a special person. That's a special person. Um, empty the dishwasher. She will
Also, it
thank me.
takes a special person to take the trash out every single time.
Well, yeah, but it's their shared duties, and she'll do it,
Yes.
and thank her. It's a thing that we've grown into doing now, and it's like I said, several years later, and we still do it, and I still every single time am blown away by it and appreciative of it, and it's just as you said, you grow up without it, and then hearing it, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, this feels so good. And you just want to continue to do it. And she's a dynamo. I like I said, I thank her for everything. She thanks me for everything. She comes to me with work challenges. She bounces ideas off of me. I bounce some of my work ideas in terms of the writing off of her, get her feedback, a
Hmm.
female perspective. And it's just a rhythm we have. I and we laugh all the time. We have I call them bits. We have these bits that we go through, and we just crack each other up. And we just sit there, and I was like, "This is our life. This is freaking amazing." Um, we just love it.
So, how did the conversation go once the two of you were started?
So the conversation just rolled. We went through the gratitude, and like I said, we just opened up about. We brought up a lot of things in terms of the discussion. So we talked about where we are physically. We talked about where we are
Hmm.
emotionally, where we are in terms of marriage, all the things that we're grateful for, and it just continued to flow, and it just branched out into this direction and into this direction. And like I said, what it really boiled down to is that we're just so fortunate. I know the last 18, 19 months have been brutal for a lot of people.
Hmm.
But I'm an introvert. She's an introvert. We've probably spent 20 hours a day, 24 hours a day around each other, and we loved it. And so we
I had a recent couple that said the same thing. It was like, "This is great. We get
yeah,
to be with each other all day, every day, and don't
yeah.
have to leave the house."
Yes, yes. So I'll give you a funny story. So the libraries in New York recently reopened. So they were only open for drop off and pickup,
Hmm.
and they just reopened where you can actually go in. And so I like to write out in public. I like to go to the waterfront. I'll write in cafes back when they were open, etc. So I was happy
Hmm.
that the library opened up. And so I go to the other day, a couple of weeks ago, go to the library to do some writing. And like I said, we're around each other 24 hours a day. She gets off a call, she has a break, and she wants to come down to the library to find me. And she just had seen me 20 minutes ago. And she stops herself. She's like, no, I shouldn't do that. But then when I get home, she tells me, I missed you. I was like, this is awesome.
That's sweet.
Yes. It's
And also very nice of her to not interrupt your writing.
Yeah, yes, yes. So it's a win-win. So it's moments like that that are very, they're small moments, but they're special moments.
Well, it's wonderful, and I'm glad the two of you enjoyed your date. I hope you incorporate taking those moments and just sharing what you're thankful for in your worlds with each other again. Before we go, will you please share with the audience where they can find information about you, where they can find your books, and how to support you on social media?
Absolutely. So I have a website, www.authormelwalker.com. You can find me on Instagram, also at author Mel Walker. On Facebook, same. I have a Facebook group called The Walker Way. Feel free to join there. And all across social media. I'm trying to get on TikTok, but somebody has to teach me. So,
My guess is it's not for everyone. I'm not there. I think it'll
yes.
be okay.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the occasional video, though. I like when
Yes.
people send them to me, but I don't go there looking.
Mhm. Yes. Awesome.
And what about your books? Where can people find your books?
I'm on Amazon. All my books except for my next one are in Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited, you can hop on, read them all for free. The collection that I spoke about before, finally got it right, is actually going to be my first wide publication. So it'll be on every platform. If you have Kobo, Barnes and Noble, Nook, wherever you want to go, you'll be able to grab that one. And it's already up on pre-order, 99 cents. Order it
Yes. Well, thank you very much for trying this tip and sharing all of your wonderful stories and ideas with us. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and give Mel some love in the comments. Until next time, remember to treat love as a verb.